Area! It's time to wake up. It's 5, and we're live.
Oh, is this thing on? I don't care. I want him to hear.
This is the Pregame Show, your early morning shot of sports on 95.7 The Game. Come on!
Put out to center field. And it's Robert who makes the catch. And that's the ball game. So the Giants failed to do what they wanted to do after winning the first 2 games. And that's get out of here with a sweep.
Dwayne Kuiper on the call there. NBC Sports Bay Area. Giants take the L. Could not complete the sweep, as you heard on the call there. 6-2 the final. And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is the Pregame Show. I'm your host, Joe Spadoni, and you got me for the next hour. And it's an exciting day at 95.7. It is a very exciting day at 95.7 The Game, specifically this morning. We got the man, the myth, the legend himself in studio all 4 hours of the morning roast with Bonte and Shasky. It's the one, it's the only.
Crack, crack, crack.
Brian Baldinger. So I cannot wait to hear from Baldy starting at 6 o'clock, all 4 hours in studio with our boys, Bonte and Shasky. I'll try to be the little, pregame shot for the night and the party that is Brian Baldinger. And that's what we're going to do here for the next hour. So we got a lot to get into, not a lot of time to do it. You know the number, 888-957-9570. That's the number to call or text the Xfinity mobile text line. Also hit us up on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, all powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Go ahead and search 95.7 The Game on any of those platforms. Like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me on Twitter if you like, at Spadoni_Joe. But we start today, and we'll get to the 49ers, and we'll get to, obviously, the big story yesterday was the passing of Alvin Attles at the age of 87. Warriors icon. I mean, you think Golden State Warriors, you think of Al Attles. Born in 1936 from New Jersey, but he was a Philadelphia Warrior. He was a Golden State Warrior. He was a champion. He was a Hall of Famer multiple times over. His nickname was the Destroyer. And he was only 6 feet tall. You know who his teammate was? He had that nickname, and do you know who his teammate was? Yeah, some guy named Wilt Chamberlain. Never heard of him? Might just be the greatest player in the history of the sport. But his nickname, not a 7 foot tall guy, the 6 foot guy was the Destroyer. And that speaks volumes to me about the man on the court, off the court, obviously off the court, the accolades, just what he has done as a ambassador to the Bay Area, second to none. The amount of people I saw yesterday tweeting or on social saying, hey, I went to the Alvin Attles basketball camp. Like, I knew this guy. This guy was like he was a mentor. So many different people. And whether it was just some Joe Schmo or guys like Chris Mullin, Hall of Famer, guys like Rick Barry, Hall of Famer, guys like Robert Parrish, Hall of Famer. The list goes on and on and on. So we're going to pay tribute to Alvin. I want to hear what Tim Roy had to say yesterday when he joined Willard and Dibbs. And Tim Roy, obviously, friend of the program and voice of your Golden State Warriors right here on 95.7 The Game, your home for Golden State Warriors basketball. So Tim joined Willard and Dibbs yesterday. I'm going to replay that at 5:30 because it was just really, really well done. Tim was very close, obviously, being with this franchise now for, over 30 plus years. You knew Alvin very, very well. Also, Bob Fitzgerald joined the station yesterday. Obviously, I mentioned Chris Mullin, Hall of Famer, joined the station yesterday. Find all those interviews on the free Odyssey app. Download that. Favorite 95.7 The Game. And also, they're all on YouTube and all courtesy of the River Islands guest line. All right. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But for now, I got the Chicago White Sox beat you after you had that performance from Logan Webb. That can't happen. It just 8 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, and you couldn't squeeze more than 2 during that time. Logan joked like when he headed back to the dugout. He's like, if we get a lead, I'll come back out. Yeah, I think that's for real. I think if they do get the lead, he comes back out. But they didn't. They went to Spencer Bivens, who after Eric Miller, I should say, who lasted 2/3 of an inning. You go to Spencer Bivens, gives up 2 hits after Miller giving up 1. 3 earned runs, obviously, but Bivens contributed to that as well. But it just, the rat on the table, I guess you can say, in honor of Guru, who's out this week, but he'll be back on Monday. Evan doing a hell of a job standing in his place. This offense just isn't good enough. I don't care if you have the best rotation in baseball, Farhan Zaidi's words, not mine. You can have the best rotation in baseball and just, if you can't score, it doesn't matter. The name of the game is touching home plate. And the Giants, time in and time out, have just struggled mightily, even in this series, against the worst team in Major League Baseball history. They really are. This White Sox team stinks. You needed to sweep them. Going 3-2 in a 5-game stretch against the A's and the White Sox is not good enough. It needed to be at the very least 4-1, and 5-0 would have been more acceptable. But 3-2 just wasn't. Not against the A's the way they're, and they've been playing much better baseball than the Chicago White Sox. They actually have one of the best records post All-Star break, but still, you look up, they're 15, 16 games under 500. They're not a good team. The Chicago White Sox are an abysmal team. So yes, just losing 1 game to them does feel like 2 losses because they are that bad. Tyler Fitzgerald, he's cooled down a little bit. It was looking like Barry Bonds. Not looking like Barry Bonds as of late. That's okay. I wasn't expecting that. But he did hide, some offensive deficiencies at times. Thairo Estrada, welcome back. Got a ribby yesterday. Not mad at that. But batting .217 for the year. Casey Schmidt, God love him, got a hit yesterday, but it's been a struggle to watch. And now you got Patrick Bailey. This is some time. Come on down, Kirk Casale, and that's what you're getting. But you were getting that with Patrick Bailey anyways, offers. And hopefully it was just the injury, or he just has the wear and tear. I don't know what it is. It's good to see Ramos get a couple more hits. Hey, he's been consistent. The one thing I could say is Elliot Ramos, he belongs. He was a true all-star. I'm excited about him being a part of this Giants offense in the future. But is he a guy I could build around? I'm not so sure. You know what you're getting with Chappie. He's going to have games like he had yesterday. He's a 240 hitter. He's batting .245 this year. Mark Canha, who's actually been pretty good since coming over. I know a lot of people are upset. They looked at the age, all that stuff. The clubhouse vibes. I'm not mad at Mark Canha at all. He's doing what Mark Canha does. He gets on base, gets some hits. You'd like to see some power. He was known for that in Oakland. But something about this ballpark just zaps away that energy, I guess, if you're the home team. Not the away team, but the home team for sure. So 888-957-9570. Giants are 65-64 right now. So as we look at their schedule approaching, a massive series starting tomorrow in Seattle against the Reeling Mariners. It's a huge series for both of those teams. And I know you can say that about pretty much everyone now as we're heading into September. All these series are huge, but you look at where the Seattle Mariners are, and they're 4 games back within their own division. And if you look at the wild card, they're 7.5 back, and that just feels like it's going to take a long. They got 2 teams in front of them, 3 teams if you're counting the third team in the wild card, which are the Minnesota Twins. We got the Red Sox, you got the Rays, who took 2 out of 3 against the A's. Is that a 4-game series, the Rays and the A's? Let me check. Might be. It is. Oh, we got 12:30 baseball at the Collie today. Look at that. Not mad at that. But for the Mariners, who are 2-8 in their last 10, they've lost 3 in a row. This is nut up or shut up time for them. And you look at the Giants, the Mets had a walk-off yesterday. They got the win, so they're now 2 games up over the Giants. Giants still 3.5 back of the Atlanta Braves, but as we know, it's basically 4.5 back because they got the tiebreak over them. So you got the Mariners, and then coming up after that, you got the Brew Crew, who've just been on fire. Marlins stink. And they got the Diamondbacks, who, again, one of the best records post-All-Star break. San Diego Padres after that, best record post-All-Star break. Then the Brewers again, then the Padres again, then the Orioles, and it does not get easy So the Mariners and the Marlins are those series where if you're going to do something, it's probably in those series. But then you got the Brewers sandwiched in there. It's not easy, but you know what? The fact that we're talking about Giants baseball this late and that they got a shot still, I do like that. I enjoy that. I enjoy that this team is actually under some pressure, it feels like. Now, pressure from front office, pressure from the media, pressure on themselves. I think that's the biggest one. I mean, we had Kyle Harrison on the station a couple days ago with Willard and Dibbs, and he spoke about it. Everyone can feel the pressure of wanting to perform and get into the playoffs. Just get in there. And again, I've said it all season long. Snell and Webb, that tandem, I like my chances in a series if I got those guys. In multiple series, we'll see. But in a series, yeah, I'll take my chances. Get my foot in the door and then swing that thing open, kick it open with the likes of Logan Webb and Blake Snell, who have just been insane in their last few starts. I can take out an Arizona Diamondbacks. I can take out a San Diego Padre, an Atlanta Brave. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, 888-957-9570. Where are we at, Giants fans? Tough loss yesterday. You would like to sweep the White Sox. Again, they improved. I always like saying they improved to 31-97, by the way. The Chicago White Sox improved.
It bothers me.
I know, Braun. By the way, you see Stephen Curry and LeBron sharing a post on Instagram? How cute was that? You got KD there. I don't know if he just didn't accept. Maybe he's not an Insta guy. He's a Twitter guy. We do know that. KD loves his Twitter.
What are we doing?
They still love you, Clay. Don't worry. That's what we're doing. We're talking about whatever the hell we want this morning. And if you're feeling the Giants, hit me up, 888-957-9570. But it does feel like we're circling the drain, talking about this team a lot. And Logan Webb specifically, I'm not going to get outraged about the ninth inning yesterday. I refuse to get outraged by that sort of stuff. It is what it is. Logan was sick, I guess, during the week. They had already discussed it during the game. He wasn't going out there. Tyler Rogers, whichever one, it's one of the twins, was pitching last couple days. He wasn't going to go out there. So it was Eric Miller who gets the loss. Then you got Spencer Bivens. Listen, it's still a professional team. You got to go out there and execute pitches. They're not just going to hand it to you all the time. They do have 31 wins on the year, the Chicago White Sox. So you take the L. Then you move on and hope you don't take more L's against the Seattle Mariners. But I was watching yesterday just all these different games happening and all the different high scoring. And you look at the Twins, what they're doing against the Padres. You're looking, even the Miami series against the Arizona Diamondbacks have been high scoring. Arizona outlasted them yesterday 10-8. And I was watching the Mets, the team that's directly in front of the Giants, and there's just something to be said about winning certain games when you get adversity against you. Now, I wouldn't have written off the Giants if it was just a 4-2 lead, but then it turned into 6-2. 4-2 lead against the White Sox, hey, we might as well be tied. This team just loves giving it up. They're not very good. Again, from my eyes, worst team I've ever seen in my life. And that might be all sports. They are that freaking awful. And to just get 2 runs against them. I mean, Garrett Crochet's a good pitcher. He is. But he only lasted 4 innings. 4 innings. Gave up the 4 hits, 2 earned runs, walked a guy at 4 Ks. Okay. And then you had Chad Cole coming in there. Chad Cole? Isn't he a Rocky at one point? Maybe I'm mistaken him. I think he was, wasn't he? Let me look at the bio. It's got 8th season. He was a Rocky. See, look at me. I had him for a fantasy season. That's right. A couple years ago. He was a National. He was a Pirate. Okay. See, don't sleep with my baseball knowledge, all right? I know football is my wheelhouse, but baseball too, and basketball. Come on. And as we know, U.S. men's national team, Mauricio Pochettino. Come on down. From the Xfinity Mobile text line, 415. This is who the Giants are. They'll win a couple, they'll lose a couple to bad teams, and hover around 500. Well, right now, hovering around 500 means you're hovering around a potential playoff spot. And for whatever that's worth, and I do think it's funny, I was listening to the conversation that Steiny was having with Evan yesterday, and he was referencing, why is everyone so down on the Giants right now? They're 2 games over. It's just, they're right there in the wild card race. I was like, well, because no one believes in them. No one believes in this brand of baseball right now. How could you? I believe in Blake Snell. I believe in Logan Webb, and you're damn sure I believe in Harvey Dent. Robbie Ray, he's hit or miss, but his highs have been very high. Hayden Birdsong, great start against the A's. Let's see him do it again. Kyle Harrison, great start against the White Sox. The White Sox and the Rockies. Let's see him do it again. That's why Giants fans aren't super thrilled. And when you score 2 runs at home against the worst team in baseball, that kind of reinforces how they feel about the team. That's why people aren't that excited about them right now. Plus, we've got all this drama happening with the 49ers. What's going on? We still don't know. It's just exhausting. Is Brandon Ayuk going to be here or not? Is Trent Williams going to be here or not? I can't wait for Baldy to just, and he called this a major distraction just the other week, this Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams stuff. And again, Brian Baldinger in studio 6 to 10 this morning with Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky. Cannot freaking wait for that. And again, if you're not on the Odyssey app, if you're not on Twitch or YouTube or Twitter, what the hell are you doing? It's Shark Week. Shark Day. By the way, Shark Week, I was really into it as a kid. And then I just was like, I can just go on YouTube and just watch like shark videos. Really into Jaws, though. Still, I think Jaws, as far as movies goes, it's for me, it's probably the greatest of all time. I can stop what I'm doing any day of the week. And if that movie is on, I will finish it. Now, I'm not channel surfing as much as I used to. And it is funny now when you have kids and you have all these smart TVs and all these different apps. And no, I want to watch this. I want to watch that. I want to watch this. Back in my day, circa 2002, we just left it on either Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, or Cartoon Network. All right. And yes, if you had TV Guide, you can look ahead to see what's in it. But if you're fancy, or it was just the channel number, you have to go on there and switch it. And then you're stuck with what you got. I mean, if you had TiVo, you were really balling. But your parents never let you use the TiVo. No, they had to record the Sopranos or whatever they were doing. You never were allowed to record SpongeBob SquarePants. Hell no. But in hindsight, it probably would have helped them out to do that if they just wanted to shut us up for a little bit. But this instant gratification is just hilarious with this. It's also kind of scary, the instant gratification era. And we're obviously to blame for that. We all have these phones on our hands and just everything is just, we're constantly tapped in. And it is nice just to put the phone down and just check out for a little bit and then be surprised by all the news. Like, oh, you didn't see all this news? All this? I was like, no, just chilling, living in the moment. Speaking of a guy that lives in the moment, and I wanted to pivot just to this sound particularly because it made me laugh yesterday. It might have been the greatest thing I've seen in quite some time. There's nothing that is funnier than interviewing a kid or a young fan, and they just are as real as it gets. And it just touches you in a way where it's just like, you know what? I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that little fan because he's speaking for the fan base. It's not always like that. You got your, oh, who's your favorite player? Oh, George Kittle. He's really cool. Stuff like that. Yeah, he yells and he's got cool long hair. No. I need X's and O's. I need kids that know their history. I need the long-suffering sports fan father that ushered his kid into the new era. And this kid is also going to know nothing but pain and suffering. Which brings me to this young fan. And this is from, and let me get it correctly because I want to attribute it correctly when it comes to broadcasts. Let me see. All right. This is from Nick Walters, who is a broadcaster for KTNV Channel 13 News in Las Vegas. And here he is, just yesterday, interviewing a young Raider fan.
If you're so into the NFL, you know your Raiders, I can tell right here. How are you feeling with the team this year?
We're not going to the Super Bowl. I already know it.
We got a realistic Raiders fan here. This is odd. This is the first interview I've ever had like this. The Super Bowl chances are not good, but what is it going to take for the Raiders to have a successful season, you think?
Not to get arrested.
Okay, that's definitely an interesting one. I would agree with that. Yeah, getting someone in prison, that's going to hurt the chances.
Oh, my God. No! That kid's going places. I'll tell you what. Not getting arrested. Yeah.
He's going places. Not Raider games, but he's going places.
Hey, that was as real as it gets. And God bless, who was it, Nick Walters? He's just like, yeah, you go to prison. It's not going to be great for the season. I'll tell you that. Thanks, Nick. One more time.
If you're so into the NFL, you know your Raiders, I can tell right here. How are you feeling with the team this year?
We're not going to the Super Bowl. I already know it.
We got a realistic Raiders fan here. This is odd. This is the first interview I've ever had like this. The Super Bowl chances are not good, but what is it going to take for the Raiders to have a successful season, you think?
Not to get arrested.
Okay, that's definitely an interesting one. I would agree with that. Yeah, getting someone in prison, that's going to hurt the chances.
It's going to hurt those chances. Kid knows his Raider football. I mean, how many arrests have there been? Not 5, not 6, not 7. I mean, within this Raiders team, well, Josh Jacobs moved on. I think, he was in a car accident. I don't know if he was actually arrested. Henry Ruggs, Damon Arnett, right? Those ring a bell as of late. Yikes. Nate Hobbs. Eesh. It's not good. It's not great. And no, they will not be winning a Super Bowl this year. Young Raider fan. And I'm glad you knew that. Because you know what? That's what you're going to come to find every single year of your life. That you're not going to win a Super Bowl. And that life is just pain and suffering. And that you got to get used to it. And you know what? One day, it'll all be worth it. But probably not. It'll probably just be pain and sadness and suffering. But hey, stadium looks great. Hey, printing those tickets. Revenue up. Hey, Mark Davis, all of a sudden, the Las Vegas Raiders went from like 20s into the 20s when they were in the evaluation, and now they're in the top 10 in NFL revenue. It's kids going places. What can I say? What can I say? From the Xfinity Mobile text line, that kid deserves to be the head coach of the Raiders. Hey, we'll see my guy Antonio Pierce, although I am a little upset with AP. Minshew, just go get Kirk Cousins. Hell, go get Russell Wilson if Justin Fields is going to win the job. Just do that. Just go get Russ. Wasn't here for the entire training camp. I'm just whatever. But Minshew, week 1 against Justin Herbert. I know who I'm taking in that game. Anyways, football season's less than a couple weeks away. I'm excited. Not for my own team, but for really all the other stuff. Not just that's the thing with football, which is just so much different than basketball, than baseball even. My team will go into the year, and I know they're not going to be great, but I am so excited about every other team still. Seriously. I can't say that with Major League Baseball. You think I care about what the Yankees or the Mets are doing every single year? No. They have great players. It's cool to see. I don't care. I'm interested to see what the Carolina Panthers are doing this year with Bryce Young and a new head coach. Can he bounce back? He was sick at Alabama. Sick. I'm interested to see how Trevor Lawrence looks with the Jacksonville Jaguars after getting that contract. And now, can we have a future rivalry between Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud within that division? That'd be pretty sick. Two young, dynamic, offensive talents. I think I got to see a little bit more from Trevor Lawrence, but what I saw from CJ Stroud last year, yeah, I believe. I believe, all right. Shout out the Monkeys. I'm a believer. And then you got teams like, I don't know, what's an obscure team? The Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray's back. Full offseason. He was recovering a lot last year. But You got him. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. That could be some sweet, sweet music out in Arizona. And they obviously got Jonathan Gannon, their second-year head coach now. That defense, you would think would be humming. That's within your own division if you're a 49ers fan. That's a team that I'm interested to see how they look. The Seattle Seahawks. No more Pete Carroll in Seattle. I'm very interested to see how they look with this new approach. Bring in Mike McDonald, defensive coordinator from the Baltimore Ravens, now the head coach over in Seattle. Geno Smith, though, I like Geno. He's not that guy. He's not that guy. And then the Rams. Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Let's see. We got one more break before we hear from Tim Roy on the other side, who joined Willard and Dibbs yesterday. And I just think this is a tremendous listen. If any of you missed it, again, we're going to be playing on the other side. Tim Roy, voice of the Golden State Warriors, remembers the life and legacy of Alvin Attles, who passed away yesterday at the age of 87. And 2 nights ago. It was announced yesterday, but he passed on the 20th. So I want to get that correct. Alvin Attles, obviously a former Warrior player, coach, champion, Hall of Famer, and just icon, going from Philadelphia to Golden State, all around Golden State Warriors. So Tim Roy will remember him on the other side. Plus Brian Baldinger coming up at the top of the hour at 6 o'clock, right here on 95.7 The Game.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I have a serious heart condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Pregame show on 95.7 The Game.
Thank you, Tim. We're going to hear from Tim in just a second here on the pregame show. Joe Spadoni. Got 2 more segments to go before Brian Baldinger, NFL Network analyst, former NFL offensive lineman, Baldy's Breakdowns, friend of the show, friend of the station, Brian Baldinger, in studio for 4 hours with Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky starting at 6 o'clock. Cannot wait for that. But first, we're going to hear from the great, the legendary Tim Roy as he remembers the life and legacy, I should say, of another great, Alvin Attles, who passed away just 2 nights ago at the age of 87. Here he is with Willard and Dibbs yesterday, right here on 95.7 The Game.
What does that man and that family mean to you?
Means just about everything. I mean, they're just tremendous people. You know, Al and Wilhelmina and Al Jr., they're just the kind of people you want to have as neighbors, as friends. And you know, they're not, you know, it's not a selfish family. It's a very unselfish family. You know, they give back. They have the Attles Center, and it's a hard day, but I'm trying to celebrate the day because, you know, when I first got to the Warriors, he was one of the first people that went out of his way to welcome me. You know, to make sure I felt welcomed. And, you know, you're a new announcer in a new city. Nobody in the Bay Area really knew anything about me or who I was. And he was the one. He was still going on trips back then, and we would talk a little bit about jazz on some of the flights. And you know, if I could get him, he would tell me a story or two. And you know, if you can make a case that the NBA in Northern California is very successful in 2 different cities, in part because of Al Attles. Before the Kings moved to Sacramento, those people were Warrior fans, and Al Attles was the face of the franchise. And one, you know, and everybody had a good word or a story about Al, and you know, the success of the NBA in Northern California, you know, in a very large part goes to Al Attles.
What does it say about Al that he has been with an organization for 64 years, going with the team and the move, and then going in the front office and being a part of multiple different ownership groups?
It just says that there's no Warriors franchise without him. That he was the one guy, there was no question. You weren't going to fire him, you weren't going to move him on or hurt him off somewhere. He had to be part of the deal. You know, he was before Steph Curry, he was the face of the franchise. You know, before the Warriors dynastic run, when people talked about the Warriors, when Warrior fans got excited about the Warriors, they would talk about the 74-75 team, you know, coached by Al, you know, the huge win over, you know, Chicago in the Western Finals, and then sweeping the Bullets, and nobody thought they could do that. And that was the Warrior championship team for the longest of times. And Al was always right in the middle of it. Player, he came over from Philadelphia, one of the last links to the Philadelphia Warriors that's still alive. You know, he became a player coach. A player coach. What a concept, right? You know, and he told this great story to me about how Franklin Mealy, the wonderful owner of the Warriors back then, called him up and he had the idea. He wanted Al to become player coach, and he says, Franklin put a pot of coffee on. He goes, I don't drink coffee, right? So you know, he says, think about some more. And eventually, you know, Al agreed to do it on a temporary basis, and that started, you know, his career as Warriors head coach, and you know, was the rock of the franchise, moved into the executive branch of it. And again, I just can't say enough. Let me tell you this about Al. In travels, even through this year, if I stop somewhere on the road and I run into Bernard King, I run into Larry Smith, I run into Purvis Short, I run into World Be Free, anybody, Hank McDowell, anybody that has had an association with Al, either played against him or coached by him, played with him, all said the same thing. Hey, give Al my best. Tell him we'll catch up soon. I'll give him a call, and you know, just make sure you say hi to Al Attles for me. I mean, that shows you the type of respect that he had, you know, not only here in the Bay Area, but around the country.
Tim Roy with us here on Willard and Dibbs 95.7 The Game. Tim, especially when an icon who's been around for a long time, when this happens, And, we've got listeners who might be in their 20s or 30s, and they're like, I don't really know much about this person. I think you're sharing a lot of it here, but I also love to hear just like, what was it like to be in a room with him?
He just, first of all, the voice. That voice, I don't know where that voice came from, but that voice he had, it just was deep, it was gravelly, and it caught your attention. If he yelled at you, you stood up and said, "Yes, sir." It was, he was certainly not a guy that I think his players wanted to be on the wrong side of. I mean, as a player, he was nicknamed the Destroyer. He played out of a guard spot and was one of the toughest players ever to play in the NBA. That's why he got the nickname. And I just think that, he commanded the room if he were in the room, but he also had, even with that toughness that he had a sense of grace. He had a sense of humility, so that even if he was like in a player meeting, he knew that players and respected players and just had an affinity for the game, and he just knew how to treat people. He was a really nice man, a really nice, unselfish man, and I miss him already.
Yeah, Tim Roy here on 95.7 The Game. What sort of a role, formal or informal, has he played over the last 10-plus years, particularly in the Steph Curry era, to where he's been able to be just a solid role model for this new age of player here in Golden State?
Well, just having him around was great. Just seeing him in the office or coming out to a practice as he did. Not so much in the last few years, but maybe at the beginning of Steph's run here. Just having him around and being just if you were a coach, you had to go over to him and say hi and try to maybe glean some wisdom from him. I mean, just a rock. And again, until the Warriors started winning titles in this era, he's the most beloved guy in franchise history. Everybody loved Al, and so it was just great to have him around. He was just a nice guy to have, a great resource for someone like me on the history of the Warriors franchise. I remember we did a TV interview, he and I got to find the footage of that. We went up in the suite at Oracle and over an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of stuff. Just sat and talked about the history of the game and about players and his life, and it was just wonderful. I was just thrilled to be able to do that. And again, I think if you're a young listener right now, research him, because there's no groundwork for Steph Curry and the Warriors without Al Attles solidifying the NBA and the franchise here.
Tim, I just read something, speaking of research, I just read something online, and I want to share just a wow moment with everybody. Apparently this is an NBA record. Al Attles has been on the Warriors payroll in one capacity or another for 62 years.
How about that?
The longest uninterrupted streak of any person with one team in league history.
Yeah, I'm the longest tenured Warrior announcer in history. This is my 30th year. Okay,
congrats.
And but think about that. He was around. He's been twice as long and then some. I mean, that's incredible.
That's crazy.
It's incredible.
62 years.
Right. He was longer tenured with the Warriors than I've been longer tenured on Earth.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's not even close, Tim.
No, it is.
It's close. It's getting close all the time, sadly.
Tim. Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, it's actually. I mean,
you just did something that I do twice a day, Tim. Just kind of go, dibs.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, just while we have you, Tim, and I.
By the way, we should also mention that Al was a great part of history in 74-75. He and Casey Jones faced off in the NBA Finals. First time ever in American sports history that two African American head coaches faced each other in a championship.
Yeah.
And that's we talk about we still have so much farther to go in our culture and everything, but that's a great moment.
Yeah, and I know you're a basketball historian, so can you just teach these young whippersnappers like the two guys behind the glass, Grandy and Lucas, just about what that championship meant for the Golden State Warriors? Because this was not like, Steph and KD where they were expected to win. This has been seen as one of the biggest upsets in NBA Finals history, right?
Absolutely. They came out of nowhere. They won 48 games that year. Al Attles had this incredible idea that he was going to play a lot of players. He had young athletic players like Derek Dickey and George Johnson, and he had Rick Barry was the fulcrum there, and so he ran all these players in and out of the lineup. He had Phil Smith and Jamal Wilkes, and so they had a very deep team, and they would wear teams down. That's how they won. They would wear people down. In each of I think of the finals games, they fell behind, I think, by 10 points or more, I think, in all 4 games, and came back and won all 4. And so this was a team that the Bay Area just fell in love with, and probably should have went back and won a second title in 75-76, but lost in Game 7 to Phoenix, who went on to play the Boston Celtics. But because I think that year, I think you could make the case the Warriors were the best team in basketball. But it was a magical time, for the Warriors, because it gave the Bay Area a championship, and those weren't coming around like they have been in this era, right? So the Niners had yet to become the Niners, right? The Giants weren't winning World Series, and the Sharks weren't even around yet. So that was the Bay Area's championship team for a long time, and it helped. It helped solidify the Warriors and their fan base, the passionate fan base, and that's what's carried them on through the years.
The great Tim Roy yesterday on with Willard and Dibbs, remembering the life of Alvin Attles, who again passes away at the age of 87. Warriors icon, coach, player, remembered well yesterday on the station by the likes of Chris Mullin, Hall of Famer, Bob Fitzgerald, and Tim Roy. Again, you can find all those interviews that we had yesterday. Just tremendous stuff on our Odyssey app or on YouTube. Again, all courtesy of the River Islands guest line. All right, one more break, one more segment, and then Brian Baldinger, who is here in the flesh, just said what's up to him. He's going to be on Bonte Hill, Joe Shasky, 6 o'clock. Don't want to go anywhere. 95.7 The Game.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service. a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
It's the pregame show with Spadoni, my homies, yeah.
All right. One more segment to go here before handing it off to the morning roast. They're fired up. We got Nahigian. We got Baldy. We got Shasky and Bontail talking shop, just hanging out. And it's going to be that for 4 hours. Just them hanging out, talking ball. You know what? That's all we want. That's all we want. And speaking of talking some ball, some breaking news that happened during that Tim Roy tremendous interview yesterday, Willard and Dibbs remembering Alvin Attles, but Adam Schefter, ESPN sources, Falcons are signing standout cornerback A.J. Terrell to a 4-year, $81 million deal that includes $65.8 million in effectively full guarantees, the largest guarantee ever given to a corner on a 4-year deal. So A.J. Terrell gets $81 million, but 65.8 of that is in full guarantees. So, you know, this is another thing we got to keep an eye on. We keep hearing about Diamador Lenore in his contract going forward. We heard a lot about that this offseason. That's another thing the 49ers are going to have to think about next year and during these Ayuk talks and during these Trent Williams talks. Money, 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 money. And the biggest one that's staring them in the face, the giant that is staring them in the face, it's this guy's. He's going to get $300 million, which makes things a little bit difficult. Now, you can take some money off the books. Can you shed some salary? Can you restructure? Sure, you can do all that sort of stuff, push it down the line. But A.J. Terrell getting 4 years, $81 million and 65.8 guaranteed. I'm sure Lenore's looking at that like, oh, okay. If I ball out this year, I'm going to be looking at something bigger than that. That's the largest contract ever for a cornerback. A.J. Terrell out of Clemson. Man, must be nice. Whew. I remember him coming out. I wanted the Raiders to draft him. Of course, they didn't. Was that 2020? They drafted in that draft class. Oh, I'm trying to think. Who was it? Oh, that's right. It was Ruggs. And then it was Damon Arnett. That's right. A.J. Terrell went a couple picks earlier. Yikes. Just going back to that Raider kid, that 2020 draft class.
If you're so into the NFL, you know your Raiders, I can tell right here. How are you feeling with the team this year?
We're not going to the Super Bowl. I already know it. I already know it.
We got a realistic Raiders fan here. This is odd. This is the first interview I've ever had like this. The Super Bowl chances are not good, but what is it going to take for the Raiders to have a successful season, you think?
Not to get arrested.
Okay, that's definitely an interesting one. I would agree with that. Yeah, getting someone in prison, that's going to hurt the chances.
And in that draft class, remember, that was the wide receiver draft class, but there was also some other big names in there. Joe Burrow. Tua just got paid. Justin Herbert. Derek Brown got paid from the Carolina Panthers, defensive tackle. Chase Young, former Niner, number 2 overall to Washington. You had Tristan Wirfs in there. CeeDee Lamb trying to get paid. Justin Jefferson got paid. Brandon Ayuk trying to get paid. DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor. The list goes on. And then obviously Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, those are second rounders. But then you got the likes like Trevon Diggs, Jalen Hurts, yada, yada, yada. The list goes on and on and on. It's actually a pretty good first round. I do think, had he not gone to that car accident, I think Henry Ruggs actually would have been a hell of a player. But you make dumb decisions and horrible life choices, that's what's going to happen. And you take a life, multiple lives actually, because one of them was a dog in there. Not to get too, down that rabbit hole, but just a waste. Sad. Very, very sad. Don't do anything stupid at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Go get an Uber, people. Go get a Lyft driver. PSA. That's my one thing today. Don't drive under the influence. Horrible, horrible, horrible. All right. I'm always a sucker for these. The top 10 or the top 5 quarterback list. And I guess we have Tom Brady's now. His top 5 QBs. He was at the Fanatics convention, whatever thing with the Stephen A. Smith show. And TB12 gave his top 5 QBs. And the audio is kind of janky. I think this was recorded on someone's phone because they didn't broadcast this part, but we'll listen to it nonetheless. Tom Brady's top 5 quarterbacks are...
Top 5 quarterbacks in the National Football League right now, according to Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes being number 1. Give me 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I think consistently, well, the guys that I see Josh Allen as someone who's always impresses me as a player. I see Lamar Jackson, who always impresses me as a player. Some different guys probably have different moments, but Joe Burrow is very impressive the way he throws on his team. Again, another guy who's got a great connection with his teammates. And then I think I'll leave it to those 4.
I'm going to throw Aaron Rodgers in there.
Oh, of course.
One of the greatest field passes we've ever seen.
So really, he just gave his top 4. He didn't even give 5. So, Pat Mahomes, you got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. Okay. I'm not mad. And then Aaron Rodgers, if you want, Stephen A. threw him in there. All AFC quarterbacks, by the way. Just such a stacked conference. I think the Bills are going to take a little bit of a step back this year. As great as Josh Allen can be, and I'm a little more skeptical on him. I know the talent's undeniable. I know he's very good. And I know a lot of people laughed at me when I said I'd rather have Brock Purdy as my quarterback last year than Josh Allen. A lot of people are like, hey, you idiot, you're so dumb. Josh Allen was the 49ers quarterback. Well, he throw there and fumble the ball. That's what he does. Doesn't take care of the football. That's my number one gripe with him. He just does a lot of boneheadery sometimes at the worst possible moments. He does a lot of great things, though. I'm not denying that. He's a hell of a talent. And I actually am very impressed with the inaccuracies he had in college and learning from that and becoming a more accurate passer and becoming an MVP candidate, a perennial MVP candidate like he has. It's impressive. And it's a testament to him and his work ethic, all that. Just something. I'd rather have Burrow. I'd rather have Lamar. I'd rather have, well, everyone would rather have Mahomes. That's not a hot take. I might rather have Justin Herbert. I know, sacrilege, crazy. Huh? Justin Herbert, by the way, he's returned to practice after the bout with plantar fasciitis. We'll see if that lingers on. That's that injury where you always hear about it in football with like the 7-footers, the big guys. I know Pau Gasol was dealing with it for a long time, but the plantar fasciitis, that's something that could linger. Shout out to Cranberries. So how do we feel about that, though? You heard the crowd there trying to say Brock Purdy, and Tom wasn't biting. Is Brock Purdy a top 5 quarterback? Like all those names, right now, if you had any of those guys to pick from, right now, I'm not going off what he did last year, I'm not doing it. Right now, the season starting in a couple weeks, you could have one of these quarterbacks. And we'll leave Mahomes to the side because I think everyone's taking him. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy. Who are you taking on your team out of those 5 quarterbacks? I'm probably going Burrow. Then I'm probably going Lamar Jackson. And then I'm going Brock Purdy. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. 888-957-9570. We've got a couple minutes left here. Is it crazy that I'm taking Brock Purdy over Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen? No, I do not think it's crazy. And I'm sure there's going to be people texting in, and I already see one on the 415, but Brock Purdy's already accomplished more in the playoffs than Lamar Jackson has. Well, I think Lamar Jackson is asked to do much more within his offense than Brock Purdy is within the 49ers. That's not to take anything away from what he does. He was an MVP candidate last year, but when the two played each other on Monday Night Football, was that Monday Night? Sunday Night Football. No, that was Monday Night Football. No, that was Monday Night Football because it was Christmas on all over the place. Troy Aikman, Joe Buck. But you were watching that game, and I just came away just saying that's the MVP. And sure enough, Lamar Jackson won the MVP. Now, 2-time MVP. Hall of Famer already. It's incredible. But yes, there are those question marks still. Can he get to the big one? Can he win the big game? He's won a playoff game. He's won a couple. But he has not had the best looks when it comes to postseason play. Josh Allen, last year against the Chiefs, he had a good game. Wasn't good enough, though. Patrick Mahomes was better. Brock Purdy went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, came up just short, though. And that was the difference between great and elite. And I'm expecting Brock Purdy to take that next step this year. Can he win the MVP? Well, if you think he can, get in the odds right now, because I think he's as the 7th or 8th best odds to do it. And it's not going to be a running back. We saw Christian McCaffrey was amazing last year, and then he didn't win it. Running backs aren't winning it. Sorry. So, Brock Purdy, Aaron Rodgers, it's not even close to me. Aaron Rodgers, the Jets could be an absolute dumpster fire this year. I know how great Aaron Rodgers is. It's just, they burned me last year. Very first game. Think about it. Right before the season started, I was like, yep, it's my Super Bowl prediction. It's going to be 49ers Jets. I got half of it right. I think I had the Jets winning it all last year too. And of course it's the Chiefs. And they'll probably be the Chiefs again this year. All right. I've wasted enough of your time. Brian Baldinger, the man, the myth, the legend, in studio, 4 hours. Next, Bonta Hill, Joe Shasky on 95.7 The Game.
You're listening to 95.